even know where to start today. Don't even know where to start. There is so much stuff to do, so many places to go. The wrong planet. Yeah, I've heard this term before, wrong planet, or I've heard of autism being called wrong planet syndrome. Um, I do want to check my audio though. But yeah, so wrong planet. This is interesting. This is probably this. Yeah, this is probably an autism site. I have never been here. I have never been here. Is this just forums or videos or? This is very interesting. About wrong planet. Okay, somehow. Oh, shit. Fuck me. Ugh. Yeah, okay, Wrong Planet is the #1 community online for young adults with Asperger's. Interesting. Never seen that before. Shit. Very, very interesting. So, what is everyone's opinion of Autism Speaks? Oh boy, this is on a autistic site of so no, I don't expect there to be a lot of positive reviews. Autism Speaks is terrible through and through, and if it had its way, no one would get vaccinated. Pregnant mothers would be allowed to abort fetuses if they knew their kids would be autistic. Um, it would be perfectly acceptable to murder your autistic children, and autistic adults would literally vanish from the earth. Charities are fake. They're charities, yeah, and they take money from the gullible people and spend it on themselves. Yeah, they get multi-million dollars in bonuses, and you can see that. Where is it? So here's our 990, and I think is it up here? Now it's down a little bit more. Yeah, I've been through these 990s quite a bit. Now I don't know a whole hell of a lot about these tax forms, and I'm terrible at them. But you can see, even an artistic person like me could see some things. Um, that sounded that was like way too, gump. Direct mail. They spent $2.5 million on direct mail. Donate to Autism Speaks today. Yeah. Okay, here's the science grants. Yeah, here's the science grants right here, and there's multi-million dollars there. But we want the bonuses. Ah, Okay, this is Keith Wargo's pay, but I still don't know why we're not getting. Um, Eileen Lamb. Oh, okay. This is 22, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, moving right along. All right. Yeah, these guys are not going to be really nice to. Um, Awareness, okay. An important question. Precisely what kind of awareness has Autism Speaks dedicated itself to spreading? With what main goal? Well, that's pretty. Let's see. Their main goal has been genocide of autistic people. Has been to quote cure autism, which means you would basically destroy my brain, or put a different one in. For example, there are homophobic organizations who are dedicated to raising awareness about the wrongness of. I gotta be careful what I say for. Anyway, so some of them are driven by self-identification, um, as the chosen in a religious sense. A lot of them are religious. The awareness they seek to spread is stigmatizing. Absolutely. And it still is to this day. And we can see that on their own website, what they put out. What,
We wanted
yesterday?
help, but we just
Yesterday they put this out. Yeah, here we go. Now watch. Mom is going to be talking about her son here. I think it's right in here.
attained hope, and we made a commitment to ourselves and to Tyler that we would never give up. A few years into Tyler's diagnosis, I was able to refer.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Now listen to what she's talking about. Her son here getting a diagnosis.
Get the evaluation and receive a formal diagnosis of autism. My husband and I, we went through a period of grieving what was not.
See how they're framing this? They were grieving because, and listen to what she says here. This is where it gets really bad. This is where it gets really bad.
Grieving what was not, what could have been, what should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Then I kind of needed to tuck that away because what should have been. Then grieving.
We started Rising Tide Car Wash and we got involved with the autism community because my brother Andrew's on the autism spectrum. What's your favorite part about work?
Oh boy. What is this? Okay, this is from this is 3 years ago.
All right, great. Well, Happy New Year and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for.
We wanted help, but we just didn't.
There's one simple vision hack anyone can use to improve vision. so you can say goodbye to your
Actually,
optometrist
and
for
I was
good.
actually
Did you know that
a
vision
traffic
impairment...
driver at the time.
Oh, he's got to get out of the car, out of the truck. He had to get out of the truck. What?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah,
Can I give a present to him?
sure.
Really?
Oh,
Please.
he wants to give you something. A present.
Maybe he's gonna get it in a bucket in this truck.
Yeah, but he has something for
Wants to give
you.
you something, Daniel.
He's gonna.
Oh, what did he do? Oh, Manuel.
Here for you.
Oh,
What's that, Daniel?
oh. Daniel, look in it. Can you look? What is it? It's a garbage truck. Daniel! Wait, look. Open. Wait, open it. Oh, you're not going to believe it, but he had one
is
like
pretty
this
cool.
and it broke.
Oh, really?
So
Oh, that's
you
really
bought him
cool.
a new one. That is so sweet.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's really cool. Doesn't have anything to do with Autism Speaks, but hey, it's pretty cool. So let's just take a look back here and take a look at this
People with
adulting on the
autism
spectrum.
are people too, and they have the same needs as everybody else.
And see what they
want
have to
love.
say
they
here.
Want a family. They want their first kiss. You know, they want everything too. And just because we're autistic doesn't mean we get like shut out of the world, that we don't get those things. It's tough to get those things, but we're part of society too.
Welcome to.
Okay, I want to see something. The term adulting, I've always had a negative the meaning of it to me has always struck me as like a kid who's trying to be an adult. To adult is to behave like an adult, to do something that adults regularly have to do. So I guess you could do that. Okay. Because I've always, yeah, I think I'm right. I think when the people who have to quote worry about adulting are kids, because when you are an adult, it's just part of your life. You don't think of it as like I've got to go to be an adult. I've got to go. No. You have responsibilities. You take care of them. Now, if you want to call that adulting or whatever, that's fine. But I don't know any adults that would actually use that term.
Welcome to Adulting. Welcome to Adulting on the Spectrum. In this podcast, we want to highlight the real voices of autistic adults. Sweet mention.
Welcome to Adulting on the Spectrum. In this podcast, we want to highlight the real voices of autistic adults, not just inspirational stories, but people like us talking about their day-to-day life. Basically, we want to give a voice.
And the thing is this is only going to be your ABA community. Your Autism Speaks, Autism Mom Autistics. It's not going to be autistics like myself from the actually autistic community. This is going to be people who have been brainwashed since they were children to to buy all this bull that they're getting from Autism Speaks.
Voice to a variety of autistic people. I'm Andrew Comero, an autistic entrepreneur, and my co-host is Eileen Lamb. I am doing the intro today because she is unable to stop laughing trying to record this intro, and I'm sure I just didn't help. She is a photographer from France, in case you didn't know. She says she's an author all the time. Anyway, our guest today is Logan, who is an autism advocate who shares his story to inspire others. He has started Love Like Logan to spread his message to others.
So welcome, Logan. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm excited to be joining y'all.
So Logan, we start our podcast by asking each guest how they like to identify. And by I mean by that is we like to ask people, autistic people, if they want to be called autistic person, person with autism, person on the spectrum, Asperger's, no preference. Do you have any preference?
I'm autistic. That's the only way I know, so.
So Logan, can you tell us a little bit about your autism diagnosis journey? Were you a child? Were you a grown-up? Do you remember anything about it?
Yeah, I remember it well. I was in 4th grade. I was 10 years old, and they started seeing signs in me, I guess quirks, as we could call it. And my mom took me to a doctor, and I got diagnosed that day. He spent about 2 hours with me, and that was a hard day for my mom, as you can imagine. Getting that, she was like, "What did I do wrong? What?"
Now, one thing that I've got to compliment them on is at least they're actually talking to an actually autistic person, which is very unusual.
What did I do? You know, what's wrong here? And so they said your son has
And they're starting to put out some of this, and it's a lot better quality stuff. But when your starting point is genocide, there's no coming back.
autism, and that broke my mother's heart. But we've come this far, and my doctor said it wasn't the end of the world. It was the beginning of a beautiful new journey with your son. And so that gave my mother hope, and that hope has carried me. And hope can do a lot. It can really.
And how old were you when you were diagnosed again?
I was 10.
Going to be real. Oh, 10. He's going to say 10. I knew he was going to be really young.
Okay.
Of course, because he's been indoctrinated. That's why he's talking to these Autism Speaks people.
And what changed after your diagnosis?
Well, I started getting the help I needed. I went to therapy. I went to speech therapy. I went to understanding how people interpret things. Just learning language and.
I hate it when I do that. I can't come up interpret is what he was trying to come up with, and he couldn't. That's a bummer. I hate it when that happens.
Stuff, and I was able to get modifications in school, which are needed, and with an IEP and everything. But I think the earliest detection is important because it helps your life. You know, I was a little bit older, 10, but it was just like, okay, everything makes sense now. And I think it really helped my life.
So your online community, social media, Love Like Logan is all about spreading positivity and inspiring others. Has anybody been an inspiration to you in your life? And can you tell us a bit more about your social media accounts?
Yeah, everybody's an inspiration to me. I get inspired every day. You know, my mom's a big inspiration. And really all the moms that come to me and say, you know, you tell your story, you're helping us. I'm able to sleep at night knowing my son, there's hope with him. And really all the amazing people with autism inspire me. And they just warm my heart. And it just is everything to me. And
this guy's going to put me to sleep. He's saying nothing.
It means so much to me, and that's why I keep sharing my
He must be a politician.
Story. And the Love Like Logan was just, it's all about my life because I'm all about love. And autism is love, I truly believe.
What do you mean by autism is love? Can you explain for our listeners?
Yes, autism is love. It means that it's a like a circle of love. It's a spectrum.
Oh
It
my
does.
God. Okay, I'm done. I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I am not gonna do this. Autism is love. It's a spectrum of love. No, yeah, I don't think so. No, no, no. Okay. That was really bad. Um and see like this there's all these autistic people, but they will not try to talk to me. Kinesiology? Really? Okay. Okay, okay.
The other thing that can sometimes help.
Now I'm really surprised Temple interviewed with Autism Speaks. I am very disappointed. She lives right down the street from me, about an hour and a half away. And I know I've run in the same circles of people that know her that personally, and they've talked to her and stuff, just from the extension office and so forth. So I'm one person away from her, I guess is what how you should put it. I know people that know her.
If the individual can control it, like the school kids that don't like the school bell, take them down to the principal's office and let them turn it on a whole bunch of times when the school is closed, or can't stand a vacuum cleaner. I've heard cases where a child was allowed to play with a vacuum cleaner where they turned it on and off, and it went from the most feared, awful thing to the fun thing when they controlled the sound.
That's very PDA. That's very, very PDA. That control issue there.
Welcome to this special episode of Adulting on the Spectrum. Today, I'm joined by two wonderful autistic self-advocates who are both very passionate about the subject of autism and employment. First, we have Temple Grandin, who needs no introduction. She's a successful published author, self-advocate, motivational speaker, and animal behaviorist, among other things. And then we have John Frizzell, who is a famous Hollywood composer who recently made his autism diagnosis public on our podcast, Adulting on the Spectrum. And today, I'm going to be asking John and Temple your question about employment. Thank you for joining us today, John and Temple.
It's good to be here.
Thanks, it's good to be here, Eileen and Dr. Graham.
Let's dive right in then. The first question we got from one of our followers is, how can I help my adult son secure a job and not get taken advantage of in the workplace?
Well, I would suggest a workplace where maybe you know the people there. That would help prevent that. There's two things that you want to avoid in a job. The rapid multitasking, like a really crazy takeout window. I want to avoid that because the processing speed's too slow. I'd have a hard time with that. The other thing that'd be helpful on many, many jobs and would save a lot of jobs is any task that involves a sequence of steps, like maybe cleaning an ice cream machine, for example. Give me a pilot's checklist. Take apart steps, cleaning steps, reassembly steps. Because I do not remember long strings of verbal information well.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the job involves...
My wife knows that basically she can give me 2 tasks and sometimes 3. And after that, she's not even going to try, because if there's too many things, I just my mind can't do it. My mind will not recall. It's just how it is. So a lot of times I'll finish those 2 or 3 tasks or whatever, and then go back to her, and then get further whatever else she needs me to help with.
Involves installing different things. For example, electrician's apprentice. There were 2 electrician apprentice jobs lost because the boss went yak, 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 and the wrong light fixtures and the wrong switches got installed. If they just had taken 2 minutes to write down the things they were going to install, that wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
John?
Dr. Grandin, those insights are fantastic. The first thing I kind of, to look at this, I think about there's a company called Auticon. Have you heard of Auticon? I know I told you a little bit about it, Eileen. But if you look at their website, they are proposing a model, and they've created an effective model. It looks like for exactly what we're talking about, with someone going out into the workplace and being sort of buffered and protected and placed with understanding into roles. And so I think this model that Auticon is creating looks very exciting.
Have you heard of it, Dr. Grandin?
I haven't heard of them, but there's another company called Spiritech that I want to do today. And they test websites and they test electronic equipment. Like a major headphone manufacturer, I can't give out the name, sends in a new headphones, and they test it with every possible thing you could connect it to see if it would work. There's also a man named Danny Combs in Denver who has a program called TACT, and he's training young autistic adults to fix cars. And this would work especially well with my kind of mind. I'm the picture thinker, and John's probably more of a pattern thinker. But some of these video game addicts, the one thing that's been very successful in getting them off of it is fixing cars. And they find out that fixing cars is more interesting than the video games are. And I've been traveling around a lot, all the time for the last year, and I'm seeing a lot of elevators that I know are not getting serviced. And there's a lot of autistic people that would be very good at fixing elevators. And it's a job that's not going to get replaced with artificial intelligence, because it's a hands-on mechanical job. That would work well for me.
Dr. Grandin, you were talking about...
Actually, Temple, I disagree with you on that. A lot of stuff is going to be replaced that we can't even imagine at this point in time, manually. I mean, we've got robots that pick fruit now and so forth, and little lasers that zap weeds and so forth. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
How to take the steps and to write them down, correct?
Yes, write the steps down.
Right. I find in my work writing music for film that I get feedback from the people I'm working with, and what I do is I dissect it into very clear steps for myself.
Yeah.
I write it down literally: this, begin here, do this, fix this, and I take out all the extraneous language. Anything superfluous completely confuses me. And so I just get down to a really clear, effective step. Then I do the objective tasks, and then I'm free to do the creative tasks once I have a clear map of the objective tasks. And so by breaking these work things down, I can handle an enormous amount. I can take on huge amounts of music and turn it over quickly by dissecting the difference between objective and subjective and creative thinking.
Well, I did something similar with cattle handling projects. I needed to find out the constraints, like the boundaries of the property, for example, the right of way from the railroad track, how many cattle it had to handle. I'd write these things down up front, so I knew exactly what the output of the project had to be. And I would do this during the project meeting, and I learned how to ask the right questions. You probably did the same thing. Yeah. They're critiquing the music, and you have to ask the right questions so you get clear guidance on what to do.
Precisely. I must get in there. If I don't have a clear question, I come back and I say, does this mean this? And I get a lot of clarity on that.
No, I want clear guidance. Vague stuff doesn't work. And then one of my very first jobs, I criticized some welding, and I said it looked like pigeon doo-doo. And the plant engineer pulled me into his office quietly and explained that I needed to apologize for that, and that if I didn't like the welding, I should have come to him because he was the employer of the welder. He very quietly told me what I should do instead of just chewing me out for it.
This is the perfect transition to our next question, which is, at what age did you find your passion, like your niche, that turned into a career for you?
Well, for me, it was a teenager. I came from a non-agricultural background, and originally thought I was going to be an experimental psychologist because I got fascinated with optical illusions. Then I went out to my aunt's ranch at age 15 and gotten interested in the cattle industry. You have to get exposed to things.
I know she wasn't really. They weren't talking about, and I never have heard Temple talk about the PDA autism.
A lot of kids today are not exposed to enough different things to find out what their passion or what they're good at is. Too many kids today are growing up, never used a tool, never used a ruler. Kids that are good at math are not being moved.
You know, I kind of agree with you as far as like primal reactions. I actually believe that like our flight response or whatever may have been extremely helpful with hunting and so forth at one time, you know, way back when. And then our pattern seeking for understanding game patterns and maybe how planting and seasons and stuff like that. So I think a lot of that pattern recognition, it makes sense if you put it into that kind of survival context.
Moved ahead in math, or the music individuals aren't being moved ahead in music.
Yeah, this is very true. This is happening for my son who's on the spectrum, and he's like very like above grade level in math, but nobody's challenging him, so he's getting bored at school. And
No, he needs to be challenged. Bored mathematicians make behavior problems. Got to challenge him. Let's take Katherine Johnson, the famous mathematician that worked for NASA. She was horribly discriminated against, but her math education was done right, and she was moved quickly ahead and was doing college math at a very young age.
Lack of challenge creates behavioral problems. I definitely felt that in my life, and I think it relates to education. I need to have really be stretched and pushed, or I'm kind of a mess. Oh yeah, so for me, I probably was 4. But I didn't know it for a long time. I would just sit at the piano and tell stories with sound, and I would imagine. I didn't even have any training, but my father played music a lot. There was a lot of music in the house, and it wasn't until I was 15 and there was a record by my favorite jazz guitarist, Joe Pass, and when that needle hit the groove, I could see the rest of my life, and that was it.
Well, it was exposure. And if you hadn't been exposed to music, you wouldn't have had the opportunity to get interested and then find out you were good at music. Yeah. John, a question. How did you get into writing music for Hollywood?
Oh, okay. My dad's life wasn't going great, and so I couldn't finish college, and I got a job as an assistant engineer in a recording studio, and they did TV commercials there. And they used to, and my job was basically to copy the documents that
the one thing that I do like about this is what they're doing is they're actually letting autistic people speak. Eileen Lamb is the other person, the other host. I don't know who this person is, but Eileen is the media person for Autism Speaks. So I'm just kind of seeing what's going on and what's flying here.
Jingle writers were going to use to do their work, and I just started making copies for myself and writing my own music. And then my boss, like maybe a few months in, said, "Hey, that's pretty good."
Our Arizona Farm Ranchman, State Farm Magazine editor, because I knew if I wrote for that magazine, that would help my career. And I started writing for that magazine. And then I got, gradually started up my business, one job at a time. I had some excellent mentors. There was a contractor that saw some of my work who seeked me out. I had a great science teacher. I want to give credit to my mentors. There was a superintendent at the Swift plant, Norb Goskowitz. I think it's interesting is both of those were former military officers. I got along with them really well, kind of real practical, no nonsense, calm.
Well, Dr. Grannon, mentors and back doors I'm a big advocate of both of those ideas.
I am too.
Yeah.
really, really important. But the other problem I'm seeing today is kids are not learning any life skills. I mean, I'm appalled at the number of 12-year-olds.
I think there's a lot more PDA profile autistics out there than what people know. I think it's a. I don't want to go down the road of, separating like Asperger's or any of that stuff like that, but I definitely believe there is a definite type or profile of autism, so to speak. Oh no, ABA is the worst thing you can do with PDA. It is literally. I remember being tortured by. I remember sitting there going, okay, they want me to do this stupid stuff. And I just didn't want to do it. But I was like, you know what? If I do it really quick this one time or whatever, they won't know what to do. And then I can go off and do what I wanted to. So I would like screw with them. I manipulated them with it because I felt they were manipulating me. And so I didn't trust them. It took away all my trust because I just felt they were manipulating me and I realized that they were trying to make me do certain things. And the one thing that always got me about it was once I, quote, accomplished their task or whatever, just started doing whatever the heck they wanted, then that was always expected, but the reward was always the same. There wasn't any, in other words, now there is 50 demands that they had, and all they were going to do is add another demand the next day. And I was like, so why even bother to try to please them anymore? And so I didn't. And then I rebelled against them, and I wouldn't cooperate with them, and I got kicked out. I got kicked out of the special kids class. Because I wouldn't cooperate with them. And that's crazy too. My kids were both PDA, and instead of, I put more responsibility on them probably than most neurotypical kids. And the reason was I know I wasn't going to tell them what to do, but I would say, okay, we've got to feed our animals. If we don't feed them, they die, and then this happens or whatever, and explain it all out to them. And then, when they would go out as teenagers, I didn't tell them where they're going. I didn't ask them anything. I just said, okay, you guys have your phones. You guys can get a hold of me if anything happens, and I left it at that. And I talked to my kids about this, and the reason was I put that responsibility of being an adult on them. And they knew that, and because of that, they were more responsible for themselves. And they paid more attention to what was going on around them. And, I mean, they got their own... They were kids, but they didn't really get themselves in big trouble, And so, yeah, right now I am terrified to leave the house or actually even leave this room. Since I got PTSD, and I got PTSD in POTS over the last years, and I think it exacerbated or whatever the flight response. I'm taking like beta blockers and stuff, and they are helping. As far as, because I've got alexithymia and the mood swings and stuff. So that's really helped with that. But I think the PTSD has made the flight response. Of course, it happened to be with police. That was some issues going on there. But that's cool. That's really cool.
And 14-year-olds have never gone shopping by themselves. They've never ordered food in a restaurant by themselves. Just very basic skills like this. Now, fortunately, I learned how to work at a young age. When I was 13, a mother got me a little sewing job at the local seamstress, and I took apart dresses and
I started working when I was 16.
handled them. And when I was 15, I was cleaning horse stalls.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm realizing how important that was, learning how to work doing a job outside the family, where somebody outside the family is the boss. That's important.
Let me ask you something. That's not a question from our followers, but
You know, I don't like the approach of ABA as far as its behavior or whatever. They can help, and there are reasons that we need to mask, and I don't give a poo-poo what anybody says. For instance, around police. If we are flapping around and screaming or whatever around police, they're going to think we're on drugs. They're automatically going to get super aggressive, and it's going to go to hell from there, particularly because we're autistic. So it can be very dangerous. So there are times we have to mask. In certain social situations, I don't know, funerals, whatever, we have to mask. We have to do that in order to survive in society. Now, I don't always recommend that, and I think masking should be discouraged as much as possible, but I think there is a time and place for it for our very survival. And if we ignore that or don't acknowledge that in itself, I think that can be very dangerous. Oh no, and they don't, You know, I just got out of a case where I went to the VA, and it was right after my son died, and they hadn't given me medical care for 2 years. I had been begging for it, or psychological care, and I told them that I needed proper care, and I went there, and I was begging. I was still in shock. This is like 2 weeks after my son committed suicide. Anyway, instead of helping me and giving me what happened was I finally told them, I says, look, I've already put it out on TikTok. I've already put it out on social media. And this was in October. I said, if I don't get proper mental health care by New Year's Eve, I am going to commit suicide. I'm going to take my life. And I'm going to make sure that everyone knows that I did it because I could not get proper mental health care from the Veterans Administration. That really annoyed them so much that instead of giving me care, they called the police and said that they didn't feel safe or something like that. So I just yesterday I got the attorney and they dropped everything, like everything, of course. And I was like, of course they did. I was talking to my quote attorney. I was like, of course they did, because they broke the law.
my son is now in a Montessori classroom, and they're teaching him.
It is.
How to...
It's extremely exhausting to mask. Like I said, I don't think we shouldn't have to mask. We should just be able to be who we are and what we are. But to be realistic, that's not going to happen. Not for our safety's sake.
How old is your son?
Right.
My youngest is
absolutely
8 right now. Yeah, my oldest is nonverbal, but my 8-year-old, the one who's very good at math, just started Montessori school, and one thing they're teaching him is how to knitting. And it seemed like so interesting to me, because in public school they don't teach you how to knit, but in the Montessori, I don't know if you're familiar with the Montessori approach, and I think they're very close to what you're describing, teaching life skills, shopping, independence, and all of that. So you're onto something there.
The one thing I agree with the Greeks and the Romans and the way they taught. Now in ABA they call it NET, natural environment teaching, I think is what they call it. But the thing is it's still not natural environment when they do it. Natural environments when you basically like take the kid to work, or you're on a farm and you know you go to do chores. There's a fence to fix, so you stop, you fix the fence, you know, after you feed or whatever. Yeah, I actually so I'm originally from Houston, Texas. Actually Houston, but Spring, Texas, and I lived there till I was 12, and they had counselors at the schools. And I was born in 1970, so up to about 82, that was when I left. That's that period of time right after, what was it? Was it Skinner? or the Lavaz, or what was his name? Um, came up with that book. It was what, in 1967, and basically set the foundation for ABA in that book. And so they were using behavioral science at the time. All the methodologies that you see with like giving out tokens and rewards and all that stuff was tried on me. It wasn't called ABA. It wasn't called IEPs, but that's what they were doing, and that's what they were experimenting with. And I saw that they didn't follow through. I saw that they were trying to manipulate me. I saw they were just trying to make me do things. They didn't explain what they were trying to do it or why. They just were doing weird, stupid stuff and asking me to do weird, stupid stuff. And I also found it very intellectually insulting, the things that they were asking me to do, particularly because they weren't telling me why. You know, when you're 11 years old, okay, put this duck in this round block in the round circle. You're like, what? You know. So yeah, it didn't work. But so I call her Token. She's the token autistic person. They have Autism Speaks. Out of 216 people, they have her. If you were to take a random sample at 1% of the population, is what the average is or more of autistic people. So if you were to take a sample of 200 people from any random sample anywhere in the world, you are likely to have 2 autistic people. They have 216 people and have Token, Eileen Lamb, as their one autistic person.
Well, I'm finding a lot of parents just can't let go on letting their kid just go into a shop by themselves and buy something and have to talk to the staff in the store. I'm running into that all the time. Fully verbal kids may be doing excellent at school. And for young kids that...
And now Skinner's kind of like discredited. I mean, I don't know, not discredited, but it's kind of looked like Freud. Like when I went to college, they were just beginning to express some doubts about Freud, and that was like the early 90s. And now they're like, okay, yeah, you know. But yeah, it's amazing how it changes and everything. But yeah, definitely, Skinner, I don't think has the same godlike status that he did in his time. And I think a lot of people, while they do appreciate a lot of his work, oh yeah, too cognitive. I think way too cognitive.
Recommend around 11 on jobs like walking the next door neighbor's dog. It's Mr. Jones's dog, and every morning at 7.
Yeah, Skinner was more of a behavior science, and Freud. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And both of them were out there or whatever, but unfortunately in that science that's going to happen, and it might be a horrible necessity. Ooh, I hate to say that, but you've got to have those extreme ideas and everything at least thrown out there for consideration, and we can throw them out and sift through them, but it's good to have those people that stretch the boundaries of what we challenge what we think about things, I guess, whether they turn out to be the best things or not. The challenge is what's important, I think.
To walk it, maybe a church volunteer job or a farmer's market volunteer job. We need to find something to replace the paper routes, because I have grandfathers and grandmothers come up to me all the time.
And this is one thing that I'm having trouble with Temple here, and with Autism Speaks is the same way, and this is important, and I understand it is important, and I have preached this all my life about skills, and teaching people, teach the person to fish instead of cooking them a fish, so they can fish, eat for life, that kind of thing. This being said, we live in a world where productivity is how we are judged, is how we are our worth is based on our productivity. That is why the disabled in society are there's a lot of prejudice against disabled people because they're in general not as productive. They're disabled by definition. They are disabled. So there comes a certain amount of bigotry with that, of the abled and disabled people, and that's not intentional by any means. So what Autism Speaks and Temple here is talking about is finding ways to get people in that workplace, to get autistic people in that workplace, to get that productivity back up, so that we're productive members of society. And what I think is we should go about the other way, and that is to try to grow the autistic person as much as possible in their own way, individually, and help their strengths, work on their strengths, help them build their strengths so that they can go in the area that they want, and we can have more Alan Turings and Bill Gates or whatever in their own area. Maybe it might be in nose surgery or something, whatever their talents are or whatever. But then we're going to have extreme specialists, hopefully. And I'm saying this is ideally, and of course, ideally, we wouldn't be judged by our productivity. Now, back to the real world, away from my fantasy land, I would say that hopefully we do try to foster everybody's needs, not just autistic people, and help them grow them individually, and hopefully we can work on going in that direction. This being said, yes, it is important for these skills and so forth, and what Temple's talking about for the job market today, because otherwise we're not going to eat in the real world.
That discover they're autistic when kids get diagnosed. But both of those grandfathers and grandmothers.
Right, and so if productivity is not if he is unable to quote be productive and work, then there's extreme prejudice and extreme judgment about what is this person's worth as a human being. And that's where it gets really dangerous. And that's why I don't like this framing of productivity that she's doing. Now, like I said, I know it's kind of necessary. I just don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it. I wish we didn't do that. And right. But and the thing is there's still got it. So if there's people that have to help your son, then that's where that judgment comes from and so forth, and that's where a lot of the prejudice and a lot of hate comes from, unfortunately. And that's where we start getting, well, autistic people are a burden on our society or whatever. Well, I don't think Bill Gates was a real big burden on society. And, you also need to take, is it autism or are there other things? And like I have all kinds of other comorbidities. I have I had childhood epilepsy. I'm narcoleptic. I'm ADHD, PTSD, POTS, Ehlers-Danlos. All these other different comorbidities that make a big, big difference too.
I learned how to work at an early age.
So our next question actually asks about what happens when you have a job and it's difficult. The question is, I have a job I love. I work with autistic children and it seems to be successful, but sometimes I feel burnout and overwhelmed. I have a lot of responsibility, a lot of tasks, and I get very tired. I feel like it's too much for me. Have you ever experienced autistic burnout, and how do you deal with it if you feel it coming on?
Well, I've had a lot of issues with anxiety. I've been on antidepressant medication since my early 30s.
And almost all autistic people, I don't know if it's possible for there to be an autistic person that hasn't experienced PTSD or depression. Most of us have experienced both. And I don't really know of any that don't have additional mental illnesses such as depression. Um, like I've been diagnosed with GAD. What's that? General anxiety disorder. Those kinds of things. But you're gonna expect those kinds of things. That's a bummer. You know, I'm trying medication now for the first time since I was a kid. But the thing was, is I did not know I was autistic. I was being diagnosed as being depressed or whatever. Which yes, I probably was depressed, but that wasn't the underlying issue. They thought that was, and I wasn't diagnosed with autism until I was 50. So with all of those misdiagnoses and so forth, misdirections, it was hit or miss, and they did try some antidepressants and so forth. But for me, because I am PDA, just like you said, you sound really interesting. I would love to if you ever could come on and talk with me. This month I'm definitely going to be sticking with Autism Speaks and so forth. But you sound very very knowledgeable. Yeah, I thank you. Thank you. Exactly. I've got a shirt. I'm going to show you a shirt I got. I made this up. This may be backwards. I made this up. But it says, autistic and never a burden to my autistic mom. Ah, yeah, it's actually shown the correct way. yeah, I'm talking. I'm talking to you. Right, reading. I can't see. I'm gonna call you Rit.
Discuss it in my book, Thinking.
Oh yeah, the ableism. Oh, Dolo, you've been here before, I believe. Hello. Yeah. Oh yeah, the ableism, and even I love Temple but she's sometimes a little ableist. I think I've been ableist, particularly like autism awareness. I remember for years and years and years, I was like, who cares? Not in the sense that I didn't care about autistic people, but it was like breast cancer. Okay, it exists. We all know it exists. You know, so now what? Now's where we need to move forward and start educating and so forth. Oh yeah, my extended family was horrible to me. They really were.
And I was in a constant fear state. There was something wrong with my nervous system, and a very low dose of an antidepressant stopped.
See, I think she might be PDA. I don't want to pin that on her or anything, but what she's describing, that constant flight response, that it also comes with alexithymia, which I have and my son had, definitely. But it almost sounds like she's starting to talk about PDA here a little bit.
The big mistake that's made is people take too high a dose. And I also want to add way too
and that you can have that with autism and not be PDA. So don't get me wrong.
many drugs are given out to little kids like candy. I think that's totally bad. Now, I think one of the things we have to avoid is the rapid multitasking types of jobs. That I can't handle that. But designing equipment or composing music does not require rapid multitasking. And I'd start to look at what's going on with the autism program that's causing the problem. We got to, just as John was talking about, breaking music down into creative and the non-creative parts of it. Okay, what is the problem at that job that's causing the burnout? I want more information on that. Then we can figure out how to make an accommodation.
So so I think what Dr. Grandin, if I can summarize, if we can filter out the things that cause burnout, if we could and some of them could be environmental, they could be lighting, they could be sound, they could be the multitasking, switching between things. And when you can filter those things out, I think for me, I know I can be very, very durable, and I can work really crazy long hours.
I could too.
When I'm in a clean and I said clean environment, when I don't have clutter of machines beeping and this and that, and I can just focus, I can just I mean, I have to set alarms to stop. I just get very.
Yeah, and I think we're all thinking the same thing, Dolo, because like I can multitask fairly well if as long as I don't have any distractions or anybody watching me or any interruptions, and that's pretty much what he was just saying. However, if it was literally the same job in a workplace where there's a bunch of other people, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Very, very deep into my work.
Well, I did the same thing with doing drawings. You see, you're not multitasking. Now, one of the issues we need to be looking at now in the environment is LED lights that flicker. And you can take out your phone, film it in slow motion video. Now, this doesn't bother me. See, this is not everybody on the spectrum. I say it's 10 or 20%. They'll have problems with LEDs that flicker. And some flicker and some don't. And if your computer monitor is flickering, you need to get one with a higher refresh rate. Maybe double the refresh rate. Just stop that from flickering.
I did not know that about the computer flickering. The screen I'm looking at right now is 244. Then I've got my son's over here, and that's 144. And then this was an old 60 that's just a throwdown monitor. Then I've got a television monitor up there. It doesn't flicker at all.
But
But I have not heard about the LEDs. I've heard about the fluorescence.
Asked me about architecture.
Dolo, I remember being at work and having my job, like having everything done, and when like other workers were coming by, I would like put something out there to make it look like I was working because I actually was completely done and I was basically working on something else to go way ahead. But I knew that by going ahead and working ahead, that they wouldn't understand what I was doing or whatever. So I just like had throwdown quote fake work that I would do as when they would like come in the room or whatever. It was crazy. Like I was faking work so I could get my actual work done. But the thing is I would be like way ahead of most of my coworkers and stuff. My productivity would go through the roof once I understood what I was doing.
Schools and stuff. I said, number one.
Particularly if I could run my workspace. If I could run my workspace, then I was good to go.
Get LED lights that don't flicker, and you can test them regular slow motion video.
Oh yeah.
But
well, the thing is I am slow. I know I'm slow. However, I get so efficient. My quality control is usually double everyone else, and my efficiency will go 2 or 3 times what everybody else. After I've had 3-4 months or whatever to do one particular job, and I mean one particular job, not a whole different distractions, etc.
Well, people will often say, well, he's got challenges at work. Well, is it something with multitasking? Is it something with noise overload? Is it something with a bad boss that's pecking on him? I need to find out what the problem is before I can solve it.
So,
and I think what she's saying here is pretty simple. Like when I discovered I was autistic, I had worked for a trash company. I had worked for a trash company for a number of years, and all that noise and stuff, I didn't know that there was a such thing as earplugs or that kind of hearing protection or whatever, and I just couldn't wear it. Nobody else was. I thought everybody hurt like I did, and come to find out, all I needed to do was get some earplugs or whatever, and I probably would have been a lot better off. I couldn't really wear sunglasses just because there's so much dirt and stuff you wouldn't be able to see after about two go 2 or 3 moves or trash cans, and you'd have to clean them again. Oh yeah, and the funny thing is I've been in the same situation where I've known that I was a lot smarter than everybody I worked around. I mean, that's been very, very common. But as far as learning things and picking things up, yeah, it's a lot slower. a hell of a lot slower. Once I got it, though, nobody understood and could work with my proficiency. And I'm not saying I'm all that or anything else. It's just how that autistic mind works. It's just, um, it can be extremely frustrating and you will look stupid. I don't know how else to say it. You just don't look smart. Um, but once they get to know you and let you do your thing, if you can get to that point, and your manager does not get intimidated by that, then you're doing good, and you're going to do great.
What do you think is the most important thing for schools to know about educating students with autism?
Well, I think there needs to be a lot more emphasis on life skills. But I've talked to some very good life skill coaches that said they got yelled at by parents for not doing enough academics. But I'm too often seeing, I was just over a conference a month ago, and they told me about a student who had straight A's all through college and absolutely couldn't keep a job. Had absolutely no experience with working before she graduated from college. I want to make that transition from school to work more gradual. So by the time they graduate.
Now, and my kids were very, very involved in 4-H. So there is the socialization and the life skills from that, because those were their animals they had to take care of. I mean, I bought my daughter a horse trailer when she was 16. That was her sweet 16, was a horse trailer. But the thing is she had earned it. She had earned it for what she had done and everything. So that was no big deal.
Graduate college, they've already had some jobs. That's what I'd like to do. But I want to emphasize it's never too late to start. And that's been shown with the car mechanics. And the good thing about that, there isn't multitasking. You work on one vehicle at a time. There is no multitasking.
What do you both think about autistic teachers? Do you think that, I would think that it would be a benefit for any decent-sized school to have an autistic teacher on the faculty. I think that as an autistic student, what a great way to see an example, and what a great way to see where you can go.
Once again, in a perfect world, yes. Have autistic teachers teach autistic kids in a perfect world, because we communicate the same, and we'll be able to, the teacher and the student would automatically be able to communicate better, because we know that autistic people, that's people who are not autistic, communicate better with autistic people, and autistic people communicate better with autistic people. In the real world, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Or if they do have autistic teachers or whatever, they're going to just be plugged in wherever the heck they need a teacher that day or whatever. They are not, unless they are specially earmarked for special ed classes, it's not going to go to autistic people, and it's not going to help autistic people. Oh, Dolo. I'm so sorry, man. Oh, crap. Okay, I'm going to ask something. Okay, I've been beat up by the police twice. I was a peace officer for 15 years. I am a Caucasian, okay? I'm 53 years old. I did not have to deal with the police when I was a young black autistic man. I can't imagine how terrifying that is. I'm terrified to leave the house now. That's why I'm not working. I hope you didn't have any terrible experiences with that. Have you had bad experiences where being not only your skin color and the autism really put you in danger? And if so, what do you believe that we should learn to mask for those types of situations? You're going to be like, well, there's going to be a full-fledged interview there, Dave. What the heck? Yeah, right. Oh, dude, and then, of course, you know, a black woman is the hardest for the black woman in this country, in the United States to get a diagnosis because she's a woman, she's black, and she doesn't know what she's talking about, so she can't get her, autism diagnosis. It's really difficult. And she does know what she's talking about, by the way. I'm just saying that's the attitude thrown out there. I think we should too, and I think and unfortunately, particularly for like young black men, I think it's essential that they learn, particularly around yes, for survival, literally for your life, for the sake of your life. We know that particularly young black autistic men are the most likely to be unliked by the police, and they're the most likely to be roughed up by the police, and we will leave it there. Not cool. Not cool at all.
But if this was more open, if schools made a point of having autistic teachers, and it could be more open and more openly discussed.
Well, I do a lot of talks for businesses, and talk about my book Visual Thinking, and I make it very plain to businesses that they need the skills, like that best mechanic, maybe autistic. I had autistic people building.
Tolo, I might want to have you come on sometime. I'm going to be doing a bunch of lives and so forth. I've also got a friend, Purple, who is doing on every Saturday this month. There is a panel of autistic people. Her name is Purple Rhymes with Orange on YouTube. She is Purple Rhymes with Orange. Anyway, it's basically it's going to be an all autistic panel. I don't know if it's going to be the same people each week or whatever. Okay, yeah, here's Purple Rhymes with Orange. I can actually say a good friend of mine.
Greetings, sentient beings.
Anyway, and you can see right here, here's the scheduled streams coming up. So I definitely invite you to come visit us on this stream. Amazing people, and you know what? We might just make some friends, some long-term friendships.
Looking for me. I can think of 2 of them right now. They're retiring now. I've typed their names into Google Patents, and all kinds of patents come up. They own businesses. See, this is one of the things that makes me kind of want to pull my hair out as you go back and forth between the autism world and the industrial world. And the problem is, those mechanics that are autistic and undiagnosed, they're not getting replaced right now. It's a big problem. And I've been out to the tech companies, and there's rows of computers there, and the computer programmers, whole room full of them, just silent, glued to their screens. Been there, seen that. I think half of them are on the spectrum.
I wanted to read a quote about this for schools from Simon Baron-Cohen's book, The Pattern Seekers. Simon Baron-Cohen says,
"What happened at the store?
Our schools should be identifying children from the earliest age as hyper-systematizers, which will include some children who have been formally diagnosed as autistic, so we can provide..."
And so he characterized it as hyper, as is too much.
"An educational environment that plays to their strengths, presenting information in an if-and-then format, so they can shine rather than fail or to be turned off by education altogether."
I would kind of agree with that, because that's a logic-based thing. I cannot stand Simon Baron-Cohen. I don't, but I think he's kind of right there. Autistic minds need to learn the way that autistic minds need to learn. Allistic minds need to learn the way that allistic minds need to learn. If somebody's, good at math, they need, maybe if you structure things in a math way so that they can understand it and you teach it in that way, then great. If they're an artist, then teach it in an artful way or whatever.
Well, I agree with that. And I get asked all the time, how can we tell what a child's strength is? Well, I had a little flute when I was a child. I could never figure out how to play it. If you'd been given that same flute, you would have played it just fine. But how would you know who has the musical talent if you don't expose them to the piano and the flute, other instruments? I had lots of things to make things. I had tools when I was growing up. I liked making things, but I'm seeing kids growing up today where they've never made a paper airplane, they've never used a ruler, and they're in college.
I had a lucky experience in high school with my dean of faculty named Tom Yankus, who brought me into his office and he basically said, Frizzell, what am I going to do with you? Your grades are all over the map. Your behavior's all over the map. If I let you just go into a practice room and study music all day.
See, I can mask in public really easy. I've learned to, I masked most of my life. And so people may notice I'm different sometimes because I am different. I think it spooks people because they don't know what to think, and I'm not a black man, which I know makes it worse, way worse.
Can you just
because then automatically, well, he's on drugs, right? Automatically, right off the bat.
Not be a pain, basically. And
I'm sorry, I'm so pessimistic towards people. I need to go put myself in timeout, come back with a better attitude.
and I said, yeah, I think I can do that. And I just basically spent my senior year practicing, and it ended up really working out. I went right from there to USC Music School. So it was a really wonderful little situation that just ended up with me being able to just laser focus on what was going to be my career.
Well, and you were really good at that. Just the other day, I ran into a pilot that he had an autistic kid that was flunking out of high school, and they introduced him to engineering. He's working on construction now, testing concrete.
This is actually not too bad. I'm kind of impressed. I've been waiting for Eileen to jump in here, but she really isn't.
And that's the sort of stuff I like to hear. See, my mind thinks in specific examples. You see, there's big educational concepts: inclusive classroom, employment. See, my mind tends to think in specific examples and then kind of put them into
order,
into categories. Like for an inclusive classroom, I would think, okay, the LED lighting I need to fix, more written instructions, checklist type style instructions, and dealing with bullying. Those are three very specific things that we'd need to do to make a classroom more inclusive. Because you talk about it in big, broad concepts. Well, how do you actually do it?
Of course, I have to think.
How does someone find employers who hire
my most favorite
people?
Viewers?
Well, like John just had to show his music off. I just had to show my drawings off and my writing off. We showed the work, both of us. That's how we did it. And that's how I sold jobs, simply showing off the portfolio. But we both have very specialized skills. You may have somebody else where they don't have a fancy skill.
I've actually seen on TikTok where her work was put into practical application, and it was just beautiful to watch. It really was.
Skill to show off.
Right.
Of course, I've worked with a lot of stock and so forth, so that would be a cool thing to me.
But they have other traits like just being accurate. Let's say working in a stockroom at a store.
Okay, I love the way that she just used the word traits. And you're not going to hear Eileen use that word traits very much, I don't think. I really, instead of symptoms or challenges or whatever, she just called them traits. And it's true, they are traits.
And the stuff comes in, and they go through the manifest and make sure that what's in the box is what's on the manifest. I know a friend of mine is a store, and he's an autistic man doing the stockroom, and he's very accurate on making sure to keep track of the inventory.
Yeah, I'm watching. She does get a lot of criticism, and I believe I unfortunately, in some respects, I agree with her. As far as getting out there and working, I went into boot camp when I was 17. And it gave me a big kick in the butt. And I think it was due to boot camp that it really helped me throughout the rest of my life. That being said, not all autistic people should do such a thing like that, and it may be harmful to them. And I don't know who or when that would be the right thing. But what I was just talking about is we live in a productivity based society, and we are judged on what our productivity is. And she's talking about, and Autism Speaks is a lot talking about the job market and trying to get employers to bring autistic people into the workplace. And then unfortunately there's really talking along the terms of, well, do you have something repetitive like pushing a broom? Them artistic people can handle that. And I'm more along Dolo's thinking here on TikTok that I want to work for myself. And so I think it's a better idea to bring one to one's full potential and work on one's full potential if you can, rather than just trying to get some factory job or something like that you're going to hate.
Okay, that's a useful skill. But then you have to make sure that some other person in the store is not bullying. Now, my friend had to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And basically told the other guy that he's going to get fired if he keeps doing that.
Yeah, and like I said, I worked in a trash I purposely. I didn't know I was autistic, but I purposely, I was like, I don't care what the stigma is about being a trash man. I'm going to be able to work by myself, because it was where I would drive by myself and I'd have to go pick up the trash, at the back of the truck and then jump back in. And I loved it because I did work for myself. My boss, I don't even know his last name, but I worked for him for 5 years. Just bullying us at work, just being bullied at work. I worked as a corrections officer. I was at a maximum security prison for 10 years. And for the first 5 years, in one of the first places I went, I was bullied there by the other employees, and most of them were half my age. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
like Dr. Grandin said, we were both fortunate to have this skill.
Yeah.
But going back to, again, Simon Baron Cohen says, HP Enterprise's neurodiverse teams are 30% more productive in software testing and debugging than teams of neurotypical employees.
Well, and I say the same thing in here, because let's look at something like...
But the thing is if they had an entire crew of autistic people, their productivity might even be higher.
Risk assessment, for example, that whole chapter in here on disasters. And you take something like the Fukushima nuclear power plant, the mathematicians did a wonderful job of making it earthquake-proof, but they didn't see that they needed waterproof doors to protect it from the tsunami drowning the electric emergency cooling pump. Watertight doors would have saved it. See, the mathematician calculates. I can't design a nuclear reactor. But someone like me would say, hey, if the wave breaches the seawall, the electric pump's not going to work and very bad things will happen. We better build watertight doors.
And what she's talking about there, autistic people really do have the ability to see outside the box, so to speak, and see things from perspectives that nobody else can see. The problem is, usually when we come up with something like that, well, we need watertight doors so in case we have a tsunami, they're like, we're not going to have a tsunami, okay? Just you worry about your stuff and we'll take care of our stuff. Then the tsunami comes and the doors aren't watertight and the whole thing is destroyed.
So even the nuclear power plant needs me. And when I found out that's why Fukushima burned up, I was shocked. That's a visual thinking mistake. Very basic one.
The next question is, do you think there will come a time when the world will be more accommodating for people on the spectrum, specifically employers, education, medicine?
I think the best thing to do...
Fear, Dolo. What I'm saying about them, is in their psyche that wants them. What is it about them in their psyche that wants them to bully us? It's fear. I don't know why. A fear response, like when I have my flight response, I outwardly become very aggressive, and people get scared. Okay, I am. Darn it, shh! I am interviewing Temple. You know what? She's right down the street. If I interview her, I'm gonna go. We're gonna sit down in person.
It's a more bottom-up
That's
approach.
what we're gonna
and
do.
I think this with cattle handling.
I actually know some people that know Temple. I come from the ranch community stuff, and I'm like a county that's like three counties over from the where Temple works. In fact, my ex-wife went to school there, where Temple is in Fort Collins.
And I've been effective in improving cattle handling. And I worked one ranch at a time, one feedlot at a time, and then I wrote about it. So let's say we get something really good with inclusive employment going, then you write about it. Writing's been a very important part of my career. And you write about how to do it, how to make it successful. One successful business at a time. And the other thing I have found is you need to have a champion.
One thing at a time. And it's one task at a time, Temple. Not only one business, but one task at a time. One thing at a time. I may realize that I have 15 steps, and that's fine. And it's good to know that I have those 15 steps and have those ready to go. That's planning. However, I don't care about anything but the step that I'm basically on, and the next step. Yes, sometimes you have to plan ahead and, 2 or 3 steps to get the materials you need or whatever else. But in general, I just worry about the one thing that I'm actually doing. Who are ranchers or anything labor related? I don't understand. I had a farm. She comes from ranch community. That's what Fort Collins is. I don't know where she's at. She's somewhere from around Colorado. I don't know what part of Colorado though. But my ex-wife was a rancher and so forth. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, and I bet you at Fort Collins they would do that exact thing too.
I did some consulting for a major brand name company that will not be named.
In fact, that's how my ex-wife, she ended up getting to know a bunch of people, was because she came from a ranch and she lived in a barn literally at Fort Collins while she went to school, and trained horses while she was going to school.
Where they had an excellent program, and their vice president level champion had stroke, and the program went downhill because the champion had suddenly left. That was not good. And it was sudden, and he was incapacitated. And I designed better equipment, and I wrote about it. I trained people how to do it, and then I taught McDonald's how to inspect meatpacking plants, and then I wrote about it. I have 5 scientific papers just on the meatpacking plant program that I designed. You see, writing it and getting it onto the record so other people can read that and do it. And maybe, John, I want to see what you have to say about that.
Well, that's absolutely wonderful and fascinating. I think what you said about taking these ideas and then expanding them. If I look at, I was reading about that company, the company Auticon, and the way they're placing people in tech. I have ideas about how that model could work in creative fields, because I happen to get through I happen to sort of.
You know what I thought would be a great business? Hear me out on this one. Autistic people have sensitivities. We're stuck at home a lot. Wouldn't it be great if companies cared? I'm not talking about like all companies or whatever, but like if they sent products to our homes as autistic people for us to test, like clothing or whatever. If it was autistic people filling out those questionnaires, oh my goodness gracious. And maybe you get a few bucks or whatever, or you just get to keep that product once you get, whatever, it doesn't matter. But Imagine the write-ups you would get. Every little teeny tiny flaw would be written about to an extreme to where they would get tired of it. And the thing is autistic people would use those things and notice things that nobody else would notice. And if there's a little tag here on my shoulder or something, or a flaw here in the construction, and I notice this, maybe another person wouldn't. Maybe a holistic person wouldn't. However, it's still going to annoy them and they may not know it. So if you have autistic people eliminate all those things, imagine what great products you would have on the first run. Basically, thank you, King. Wouldn't that be great, though, as far as just getting really good testing and feedback? And it's autistic people. They're not going to hold back and say, because they want to be liked or whatever. They're going to just put it out there. I thought that would be a great who was recommending me? Oh no, I'm scared. I'm so scared. The thing is I'm only getting 200 views right now. Or 300 views on for anything. I'm really shadow banned right now, but I don't care. I'm just going to keep on going. Right now, I am live on YouTube, and nobody's watching me. Nobody cares.
Sure, that's your.
I am moving to YouTube though, and I'm going to be doing a lot more longer form, and I think I might be doing more commentary. But this was supposed to be Autism Speaks. I almost can't count this last hour. Although this is the Autism Speaks website. I mean, it does count, but I was really, this overall is just interviewing autistic people, and I really can't critique that. There's nothing wrong with that. Whether I agree with these people or not, whether I agree with Temple or not, they're just interviewing autistic people. And at least Temple is an actually autistic person.
Yeah, and I think these models, we start with these models, and then if they work in one area, we just take them and move them to another area and expand them. And so this is how we're going to get to where our question, which is, can we really change things? Yes, but we have to do it a model at a time, and we have to push on both sides. We have to get people to look at the personal interview. We have to get more education. We have to get people more aware, and then we have to replicate these models.
Well, an interview for me, when I was doing my design business, was showing off the portfolio. That's how I sold Cargill. Sent them a drawing, this is before there was internet, plastic pages with pictures in it, a brochure, a couple of trade magazine articles and cover letter. A 30-second wow. Something that you could look at very quickly and go, yeah. And I ended up designing the front end of every Cargill beef plant in North America. And I think that's doing pretty good for somebody they thought was stupid. I can do arithmetic just fine. In music, of course, you have the same issue. You can show the portfolio off. But the other thing,
I mean, my first really big break was the fourth Alien movie, and I had a neighbor who was an assistant to one of the executives on the film, and said, "Hey, why don't you give me your music?" And I would never get the job, and I just kept giving my music over and over and over. Well, the director, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, heard my music and was actually angry because he thought I had read the script, and the script was top secret. And I got a phone call from the president of music at Fox and said, "How did you get the script?" And I said, "I never read the script." And they said, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, I never read the script. I know nothing of the script." And then they told the director that, and Jean-Pierre then said that he wanted to meet me, and it was just through
that's cool.
This weird luck of the work.
Well, those kinds
and that's persistence too.
Of things happen all the time. Meeting the right people. I call it the person who can open the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some people that then they get scared to walk through the door. You went through the door. You have to have the guts to do that.
Yeah, and I do want to keep getting back to that. These are these very special skills, and
that's right.
And we have to expand this outside of what my experience.
Well, we both have very special skills.
Yeah.
But let's look at somebody that's doesn't have these special skills. Let's look at things they can be very accurate in what they do. Okay, you have somebody unloading trucks and you're bringing inventory in. I don't care what the product is. And
quality control, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I hate that stuff.
Sometimes you put the wrong product in the wrong box. That happens. The count is wrong. and the autistic person is going to make sure that the count is correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that the merchandise that's on the manifest was received.
My ADHD screws up with that too much. I'm not a good inventory person. Sorry. I mean, I should be. I'm supposed to be, but it's a spectrum there, Temple.
It's important to have really accurate inventory. There's a lot of autistic people to be good at that. Now, the thing that employers have to realize, may take longer to train, and they need to be given pilots checklists. Do not burden them with long strings of verbal information. Yak, 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 that doesn't work.
I mean, so I think, Dr. Grandin, what we're talking about is if we can get these advantageous and profitable traits to be popularized and understood by more companies, that companies will be looking for more autistic workers to come in and improve statistics in certain areas, which Simon Baron-Cohen points out all over the book. Pattern seekers, and you can see it.
Well, and I'm pointing it out in my book too.
Yeah.
The patterns. If pattern think is more of the math and music mind, I worked with a lot of people that did really badly in school. They couldn't do algebra, but they are geniuses with mechanical devices.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm immediately seeing the fiddly little mechanism that operates the door of a parking garage elevator, because the door is glass. I don't trust that door. I use the briefcase to hold it. But somebody has to fix that little fiddly device to make sure the door doesn't close on somebody and the elevator moves with somebody stuck in the door. That'd be very dangerous. And the other thing I like about these hands-on jobs, artificial intelligence will not replace somebody to fix an elevator or fix an airplane or fix a car. An electric cars
I
are gonna
disagree.
have all kinds of
I disagree.
Self-driving eventually.
I disagree. I think artificial intelligence will do it far better than we will, and they'll be connected to the. We're gonna have little like Autobots. I think they'll call them something like Autobots or something like that. That go and repair our vehicles, kind of like they showed on the Mandalorian with the mechanic lady, where she's got all the little robots.
Those have to be fixed and kept working. There's all this physical stuff. It's not going to go away. I've been looking over the.
Okay, I need to take a brief break.
It's not going to be heating and air conditioning. I can assure you of that, or electrician.
And I will be right back.
Safe.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of jobs in music that aren't, including probably mine.
Well, and this is the thing that's scary.
I am listening though, so I may comment.
Like just some very basic kind of reporting things. Yeah, it's scary. And it's probably more scary for you than it is for me. Because of stuff because I do a lot of work with mechanical stuff.
Let's see how you answer that. It says, I've noticed some organizations say that they are helping with the autism unemployment problem, but they are actually just seeking to take advantage of the situation for their own profit. I got approached by an internship group where the internships were paid, but the program cost more than the pay. So I was wondering how people can go about avoiding things like that.
What was the job? I think interns should be paid. The other thing I think is that interns should not be just doing clerical work like, running a copier or something like that. The good internships, at least in my industry, they give them a problem to solve. Like in one of the plants, they couldn't figure out why the forklifts and the pallet jacks were not staying charged. And so they took this engineering student and they said, well, find out why these machines aren't holding a charge. He gets on and calls up all the companies and everything, and he found out they were using the wrong charger. I thought that was an excellent project for an intern. See, my mind thinks in specific examples. They brought him in, they gave him an actual real problem to solve. Then the student learned something from it too.
I'm kind of wondering if different organizations could have some sort of perhaps if Autism Speaks, say there was an internship program that they had accredited.
And I must give full credit to Autism Speaks, my most faithful viewer. Thank you very much.
Or if there was an accreditation system that could eventually be developed as maybe if you're a college student and you're looking at an internship for autistic people, and you could go and see that these 3 different autistic groups have certified it. That's a tricky idea, though. It takes a lot of work, and there's a lot of vulnerability in that. I do think I'm going to go back to Auticon again, and I'm going to say that an organization like Auticon, where you can have a trusted name behind an internship, could be very valuable to expand on.
Well, and I'm thinking about is Spiritech. They test one website that they tested. They couldn't figure out why they're losing 20% of their business, and they found out that one digit.
Oh, this is getting so boring. They're getting boring.
What was it? Which one?
Removed from the playlist.
From the whole.
Take a pen and pop it.
Wow, Eileen just let him go.
Well, this is void.
Restaurant, so I'm functionally deaf in an.
Okay, I'm done with watching this one. What else interesting can we find? Oh boy, this one I'm gonna probably have.
For the first time, it just made sense, and it was like somebody turned.
This one this is adulting on the spectrum. Ross, I don't know who this guy is, but being a mental health therapist. Oh boy. Oh boy. I might be really critical of this fellow. We'll see. I mean, he might be really cool too. Who knows? We'll see.
Turned the light on in a room that I'd been fumbling about in the dark, trying to figure out where things were, so I quit bumping into things and falling over.
Before we do this, let's see if I'm gonna see if we got anything near me. That would be interesting. Shopping? Images? Maps? Interesting. Autism Society of Colorado. That's not Autism Speaks, though. So I'm going to put... How many autistic employees? Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. Whoa. Oh god, this hurts so bad. Okay, first of all, let's point out the fact that this is Autism Speaks. We've got a completely bright white page here. And they don't know, evidently, that bright lights hurt autistic people's eyes, because autistic people in general tend to be light sensitive, or at least a large portion of us. It's part of the diagnosis. Just say it. Part of the diagnosis. Evidently, they don't know that. So instead of going to a dark page or doing something like that, they're going to torture us like this. And I'm leaving it this way on purpose so we all know how much they don't think about us. Okay, so this is the irony here. This is Keith Wargo, who's going to talk about... This is the fellow who sent me the email. He's the president and CEO of Autism Speaks. Now, he's going to talk about neurodiversity in the workplace. Now, this is the irony here. We have my favorite Autism Speaks person, Eileen Lamb, a.k.a. Token. The token autistic person. She is the one person out of the 216 people, I believe, that work at Autism Speaks that is actually autistic. If you were to take a random sample of people anywhere in the world, and you got 216 people, no matter what, you're going to get 2 autistic people. So, this being said, you are going to get more people from a random sample of people anywhere in the world of autistic people. You're going to get more autistic people in that random group than you do that works at Autism Speaks. Just saying. My autistic son AJ's job was at a grocery store. We learned interacting with customers was a challenge. This is Keith Wargo speaking. Now, it's all going to be from Keith Wargo's perspective and what his challenges were and everything. He will mention his son's challenges, but it's going to be from his perspective. And everything's going to go back to Autism Speaks, and he's never going to mention I have POTS, I need my salt. He's never going to mention autistic people, nor is he going to qualify that autistic people know anything. So let's take a look at this article. Then he tried his hand at caddying, but the level of attention and stamina needed proved difficult. He also tried warehouse jobs, but the environment proved to be overwhelming for him with the wild noises and hectic space. I have worked in warehouses, and that is valid. At every corner of the job hunt, AJ also ran into issues, misconceptions, stereotypes, often leading to biases. Oh, shoot, I'm sure he never even got calls a lot of times. Communication barriers in the workplace, like deciphering social cues, rigid workplace structures that left little room for accommodation and flexibility. Face-to-face interviews over task-based assignments, reflecting traditional hiring protocols rather than a more inclusive approach. But we kept hope. And soon after, AJ landed at a job hospital. Okay, at least he's staying on task, and he's still talking about his kid. This is impressive. They assessed his strengths, and we learned a lot about his his skills, which turned out to be basic computer tasks, data entry, not manual labor, and interacting with patients. You would kind of think, being that he's autistic, that might be the case. Just saying. Throughout this journey and through my son's eyes, I've gained. Now he's going to close with him. We're starting out with me. Now we're closing with me. I gain intimate understanding of the challenges, triumphs that come with living with a developmental disability. In searching of fulfilling and dignified employment, but my story as a parent and AJ's story as an autistic job seeker are not unique. So what he's going to do here, and he's going to go back in. Let's see. Now he's going to talk about the benefits of hiring neurodiverse people, how to build more inclusive workforce. Yet, Autism Speaks only has one person token here out of 216 people. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Boom. All right. Whoa, wait. Why you should not support Autism Speaks. I'm just looking at random articles here. Another article. All right, I'm going to go back and I want to watch a video. I'm getting tired of reading. Okay. Criticisms? Criticism. I haven't tried that keyword yet. Okay, so this looks like
everyone knows the BBB is the Better Business Bureau, but depending on what you need, it's the better plan.
Incense has started. I need the negative energy cleansed out of this space. So we will have that going because this is supposed to be.
So the video, I love you so much. Thank you.
That was my.
Incense has started. I need the negative energy.
Okay, this is interesting.
Accusations of a field in crisis or at a crossroads. Tensions have been rising between autism researchers and the community their work is intended to benefit, particularly on social media.
On social media, it often feels like road rage. It's as if you don't see the harm that you do to somebody. And that's true when a scientist is careless about how they talk about autism. And it's also true when an autistic self-advocate is really angry with somebody maybe early in their career who's trying to get it right, but has got it wrong. If I was an early career researcher who was interested in lots of things, and I put out my first paper on autism and it was slammed by the community, I probably might step in another direction.
I would say that tension's always been there. It's just being recognised now.
Dr. Damien Milton is one of a few openly autistic researchers in the field of autism research. He says it wasn't an easy area to join.
You're reading papers about yourself, describing yourself as disordered, deficient, abnormal, inappropriate. The list is kind of endless.
Research traditionally looked at autism from a medical perspective, with non-autistic researchers exploring why people are autistic or the underlying psychology. That, though, is not necessarily the research the autistic community is interested in.
They would be asking about things around mental health or communication and social adjustments in housing, employment, things like this. But these things are woefully underfunded.
Just over 10 years ago, more than half the funding for autism research in the UK went to basic biology studies. Just 5% went on how services could support individuals. These issues have become more visible as the autistic community has changed. Over the past 20 years or so, autism diagnoses in the UK grew by almost 800%, notably among adults. And while there's still a lot of underdiagnosis, particularly among women and ethnic minority groups, this large community has been able to connect over social media, share experiences and advocate for what they want.
Members of the public are becoming more discerning and more critical about what they take part in. It's a lot of energy to do research, to be part of research, to be a participant. And I think we see it a lot more now in those online spaces of families saying, is this a good piece of research? I don't like the language in this. How are they going to treat me? I feel what we're seeing now is autism researchers are being held accountable for the types of research that they are doing, and that's not necessarily happened before.
Now, the UK's largest ever study into autism is being launched today.
One of the clearest examples in recent years was Spectrum 10K, given a flashy launch on BBC Breakfast. Researchers hoped 10,000 autistic people would supply a sample of their DNA to help understand what contributes to autism and other health-related conditions. The reaction was fast and critical. Despite researchers explicitly saying they would oppose such a move, some feared a DNA database risked others later trying to create a prenatal test for autism.
My major concern was what that study is saying to the world, to society, about what they think about autistic people. And it just feels that we're still at that stage where being autistic is still very much seen as a disorder.
Within 3 weeks, Spectrum 10K was voluntarily paused. Ethics bodies have since said their approval still stands. In Cambridge, the team had consulted with around a dozen people, but
we didn't really expect thousands of people signing a petition to stop the study.
You've been working in this area for 40 years. Does the fact that you went into this announcing the study with some naivety tell us something about there being a disconnect in some ways between autism research and the autistic community?
I think that what we've learned is that when you do consultation with the autism community for a big study, the consultation itself has to be proportionate. So we needed to listen to a much wider range of voices, not just people close by.
Spectrum 10K have recently opened a public survey into the project's future. But despite having a major study paused, Simon denies there's any risk of a chilling effect on science.
I don't see any negative impact because by listening to autistic people, that doesn't mean that research should be stopped. It just means that all of these different viewpoints should be kind of part of how the design of the research goes forward. And I think we're probably at a point in the history of autism research where there's a new culture on how to do research in this area.
Simon researches both the underlying biology of and the social support for autism. He says in the long term that will all involve actively including more autistic researchers or co-designing studies with the community. In fact, everyone we spoke to welcomed this as an opportunity for research.
I'm in complete sympathy with autistic community who say, well, so much money goes on genetic research, but tell us what good that's going to do. How is it going to improve anyone's life? And we have moved our direction of research much more towards mental health and well-being, much more towards under-recognition of autism in women and girls, much more towards aging and what aging will hold for older autistic people. So I think it is having an impact.
The challenge now is to build trust and common goals. Both sides will need to play a role. Accusations of a field in crisis or at a crossroads. Tensions have been rising between autism researchers
I will
and the
be
community
right
their work
back
is
in just a
intended
second.
to benefit, particularly on social media.
On social media, it often feels like road rage. It's as if you don't see the harm that you do to somebody. And that's true when a scientist is careless about how they talk about autism. And it's also true when an autistic self-advocate is really angry with somebody maybe early in their career who's trying to get it right, but has got it wrong. If I was an early career researcher who was interested in lots of things, and I put out my first paper on autism and it was slammed by the community, I probably might step in another direction.
I would say that tension's always been there. It's just being recognised now.
Dr. Damien Milton is one of a few openly autistic researchers in the field of autism research. He says it wasn't an easy area to join.
You're reading papers about yourself, describing yourself as disordered, deficient.
How to get the most of Grammarly free. It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you.
All right, we're going to start all over again. We're going to open it up with Link Ray. This is the only music instrumental to have ever been banned from the radio. It is called Rumble. They were afraid that the kids were going to go out in the streets and